Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's me, Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, intuitive astrologer these days, Reiki master, empowerment coach, and intuitive guide. And I'm here this morning to help you traverse the transits. We're going to talk about what's coming up this week. And it is a pivotal week. It is probably the most tense and most illuminating week of the year. We're between eclipses right now, and we had an eclipse, a super blood full moon lunar eclipse in Sagittarius, illuminating our beliefs. And in the middle of June, we will be having a solar eclipse in Gemini, which I think is going to be really illuminating our everyday lives, our thought processes. But this particular week, what I think is pivotal is a couple of things. There's Mercury in Gemini squaring Neptune. And that is, to me, going to be Mercury's retrograde right now. Neptune is in Pisces. This is going to be where communications are not just wonky as they would be in a normal retrograde, but they're going to feel underwater. They're going to be very murky, and there can be information that comes up that's very, could be challenging. It could be in some ways disappointing. Neptune rules conspiracies. It rules things that deceit in some ways, the 12th house, what's behind you. So I'm kind of focusing in on the idea that we want to be very careful with our communications this week and moving forward. And we also have this dynamic that's approaching. Friday will be the exact opposition between Mars and Pluto. And Pluto's been hanging out in Capricorn forever and a day, and Mars is in fall in Cancer. And so what I think is happening is this sort of bubbling up of a deeper truth, which is being exasperated or accentuated by the square between Mercury and Neptune. So if we look at Mars wanting to move forward, and it's in fall in Cancer, trying to swim its way through, and Pluto making this opposition is asking us to really look at a deeper truth and a deeper structure of our lives. What's going on? Are we living our truth? Are we living what brings us joy within our home life and the structure? Capricorn, Pluto being in Capricorn rules the 10th house of what's the structure of government, authority, the dynamics of our lives that are in the outer world. And then we have the home life that's represented by Cancer. And all of this is making conversations, and then we go into this dynamic of Uranus approaching a square to Saturn, which is the theme of 2021. So that's why I think this week of all the weeks this year is going to be extremely illuminating. And in some ways it could be frustrating. It could be disappointing because you find out things that you had thought were maybe relationships, people Mercury rules your siblings, it rules your teammates, your workmates, your everyday lives. So I really think that there's something going on here about an awakening to a deeper truth. So this is another place where I want to go, because I've been thinking about, when I think about the opposition between Pluto and Mars, I started thinking about my focus and about how my home life and my childhood still has scars. And oftentimes, rather than seeing what I've achieved in the 10th house and acknowledging that, I go back to my childhood and where I've felt, less than, and focused on that, or focused on the people within my family that haven't acknowledged my evolution. And I think that's what the deeper truth is. I'm responsible for my happiness by by my focus. So if I move my focus into a place that serves my evolution, then I can be a happier person and not get in the way of my own dreams and my own aspirations. So that's what I think is really pivotal this week. I wanted to touch on that. So as you look to see where are these aspects happening, where in your chart, depending upon how it's set up, is Pluto in Capricorn? Where is your Cancer house? Is it the 7th house? Is it the 9th house? Because that's going to be the landscape of where this is all happening, that Mars-Pluto opposition. So anyway, I'm going to continue on. I must say I'm rather surprised I don't see anybody in the chat. But we are in a crazy Mercury retrograde, so I'm not going to fight it. I see one person. Can you say hi to me, that one person? Something's up. Da-di-da-di-da. Well, I think I'm just going to continue on. So what I do here is I am doing angelic readings for you to traverse the transits of the week. That's what I do every Sunday morning here. And before I start, I'll just do a quick plug. If you'd like to book a personal reading with me, you can go to Lotta's channel and find me under the reader's menu. My name is Teri Hunter, and I go backwards. I start at Mercury. I start at Pisces and work my way towards Aries. I did this a couple of Mercury retrogrades ago. Might have been like, 6 or 10, and I've just sort of stuck with it. So here we go. Pisces, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Let's see what Spirit has to say for you this week. I hope y'all can see each other. I think I'm going to just actually, before I start, because this is highly unusual, I'm going to say hello. Is anybody out there? All right. We'll just see if anybody shows up. In the meantime, we'll just continue soldier on as if this was a video, which it's not. Okay. Our first angel is Yvonne for Pisces. The second is Xana, the angel of protection. The third is Daniel, the angel of partnership and marriage. And the final is Crystal, the angel of faith and the unknown. All righty. Pisces, rising sun, moon, and stelliums. And I say rising because I believe that is the most influential of how our perspective is of the world. I say moon second because I absolutely am convinced that we manifest on our emotional body. If we feel like crap, it's very hard to move forward and to manifest in a way that is of a higher vibration. And then I say the sun, it's how we project ourselves out into the world. If you have a stellium with 4 or more planets in any house or sign, that is a strong influence and intention as to what your soul would like to experience and evolve to or evolve through in this lifetime. So I would pay attention to that as well. Pisces, in the foundational position, joining Yvonne is the restriction card. Joining Xana is the horse. Joining Daniel is the focus card. And joining Crystal is the death card. Okay, so this is what I want to say. Your ruling planet, Neptune, in modern times, Jupiter will rule it in ancient times, is making a harsh aspect to Mercury. It's a square, it's a tense conversation, and it's going to bring up for me vulnerability and a feeling of wanting to swim away in some respects, but it's not going to happen. Pisces, the restriction card to me is playing to Saturn. It's playing to asking you to take a pause and really reflect on how you have been vulnerable and how you are processing your own vulnerability. Because in the opportunity and or the obstacle is the angel Xana saying you're protected from all types of harm, from all things that emotionally you have evolved, and it's time to sort of sit in that, to take an inventory in some ways as you play to the idea that Pisces rules the 12th house of sleep and dreams, allowing yourself to go into that time to really reflect on your new beliefs, and these new beliefs, knowing that you're being protected as you trust that the vulnerability is not to others, but to your own wants, desires, and things that you want to experience in this lifetime. Because in the angel's advice, you're being advised to let go of your story in partnerships, I hate the word let go. Let me rephrase that. To be aware of your focus on the past and what you've experienced in relationships. Daniel is the angel of marriage, but he's talking about your story, your history, what you've experienced rather than what you want to experience. And the focus of the past tends to bring the past back into the future. And during a Mercury retrograde, that is highly likely. It's where we'll see either old relationships, the actual people come back into our lives to revisit the dynamic for a minute, or we will think about those people. And now is a time of transformation into the unknown, and to have faith and to allow that dream time to actually work for you and to move yourself into what you want to experience, the death card, transformation, rather than where you have already been. This opposition that I was talking about at the beginning of the video between Pluto and Mars feels like a come to Jesus moment for me. And it's about kind of looking outside and saying, okay, how long can I blame the outside world? And when am I going to start to take responsibility for where my focus is? And the idea that there is happiness being offered to me, but I'm not seeing that, or I'm not giving that enough credence. I'm going back to situations where I was pushing the rock uphill, or I was not being acknowledged, and I'm kind of stuck in wanting that situation to acknowledge me. So this is what I'm going to say. Pisces in general, this week is going to be a moment or a week where it'll really start to illuminate where you may be responsible for your own happiness as a result of your viewpoint, and an opportunity to be vulnerable to a deeper knowing of wanting to move past the small-mindedness of where you've been and into a broader picture of what is possible. Jupiter is your ancient ruler. Jupiter rules wealth and expansion and higher vibrational philosophies and dynamics. So I believe that's what Crystal is asking you to step into and move into as you transform. Death card. All right, let's move on to our Aquariuses. Rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. I don't know if I accidentally put this thing on, if I made it public. I don't know what I've done this morning. Mercury retrograde. I tend to think maybe I didn't make this a public video. I'm just going to soldier on, guys. I apologize to my community if you're feeling naked out there. All of a sudden, it's occurring to me that I didn't make this a public video. I apologize. All right, Aquarius. Our first angel is Grace and Antoinette. The second is Caressa. The third is Bethany. And the final is Chantal. Grace and Antoinette is being joined by the Water Fairy. Caressa is being joined by the Mystery card. Bethany's being joined by the Baird. And Chantal is being joined by the Wind Fairy. Aquarius is a very innovative sign. It rules science, technology, it rules humanity, bigger picture, broad perspectives. And oftentimes it's not considered one of the most emotional signs because of that logical scientific dynamic. And so now I think for Aquarius, this is really about having compassion for yourself as you get into touch with your feelings and getting into touch with them in a way that is not about criticizing them or assigning a certain dynamic to them in relation to the herd or to the group. This is a very individual and unique sign. Aquarius ruled by Uranus in modern times, and then Saturn in ancient times. So I think this is having compassion as you create a hybrid of these two planets. I was thinking about the fact that Saturn rules Saturday in the week. Saturday is the weekend. And so often we refer to Saturn as so restrictive and so oppressive and like it's no fun at all. And I don't necessarily think that's true. I think Saturn is asking for us to evolve along with it in our perspective of Saturn. And as we move towards things that bring us more joy and we are diligent in our pursuit of that, things shift, because in the opportunity and or the obstacle is the mystery card, which is about choice. The human always has choice. That's the ultimate destiny, for lack of a better term. And Caressa is saying you're at the end of a life cycle, that a new chapter awaits you and new happiness awaits you. And I feel like this is when you're allowing yourself to be authentic to yourself, really taking care of yourself and what you want versus your history and where you've been. So let's just say that you are an Aquarius and people have said, that they've given you some sort of input about how you show up emotionally. That's what this water fairy is about. And intuitively, because I actually think Aquarius can be quite intuitive when they check into that alien part of themselves rather than trying to be in the herd, because I feel like this is a dynamic where moving forward, your uniqueness is something you embrace more. You're thinking out of the box, this playing to the square of Uranus and Saturn and the theme of 2021. Because while I could look at Chantal as bringing in new love, I think it's a perspective of how you view love, how you view intimate love. And as you get in touch with how you emote and have compassion for yourself, I believe that you will align to a new dynamic. So let me offer it this way. Let's say that an Aquarius has been dating a lot of Cancers. That's going to be a challenging combination, because Cancer is going to be very emotive, very intuitive, and can be slightly feeling a little insecure with the logic that Aquarius would bring, or the rational dynamic, or the lack of emotion that may be inferred. So when you start to realize that you guys are just hardwired different ways, then you can have compassion for one another, or compassion for yourself as the relationship doesn't quite pan out. This is just a hypothetical. It doesn't have to be true. It's just an example of the opposite. And then we have this dynamic of Mars in opposition to Pluto this week in the sign of Cancer and Capricorn. I say that because I think a deeper truth is going to come to light. I think that this opposition is going to bring forward this sort of Mars wanting to run out of Cancer. Like, I don't even want to look at it. Let me just move on to something that feels more comfortable. And Pluto saying, no, sit down, look at this truth and deal with it so we can move really past it and get down to something fun. So Aquarius, as you're gentle with yourself, as you're gentle with your emotional body, and however that plays out, because I don't think you're not emotional. I just think you display it in ways that maybe others don't quite comprehend or expect you to emote the same way they do, and you don't. And as you do that, you start to give life to your love body in a different way. And when I say that, it's like, oh, there's a yin for my yang, there's a salt to my pepper, there's a peanut butter to my chocolate. Okay, let's go on to Capricorn, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Oh, I bet that's Juan. It is. Okay, I'm going to have to decline him. I'll explain later. Sorry, guys. Okay, I'm going to go on. I must not have hit public. Oh boy. Mercury retrograde. All right, Capricorn. Our first angel is Isaiah. The second is Daniel. The third is Xana. And the final is Sonia. Whoop. All right, here we go. So I'm assuming that one participant in the room is me. Oh, God bless me. God bless the stars right now. I wasn't kidding when I said it was going to be a challenging week. All right, Capricorn. Isaiah is being joined by the Truth card. Thank you, Pluto. Opposition to Mars this week. Daniel and the Fire Fairy. Xana and Merlin. Sonia and the Letting Go card. Capricorn, Isaiah is about giving birth to new ideas and new situations, and here is the Truth card. And I believe that my goats have been transforming from those old cranky goats that eat the cans and create, havoc, to baby goats that are enjoying things and jumping around, excited by life. And I think this is an opportunity for you to dig down deep to the truth of how vulnerable are you to the outside world and their opinion. You rule naturally the 10th house. It sits at the highest part of the chart, which makes it the most visible to the outside world. Because I think at this time, while Daniel represents marriage, he really represents the history you bring into partnerships. And I don't think this is about marriage or intimate partnerships. I think this is about how you view others that you care about, others, your employers, the people you feel a certain obligation or a certain responsibility to. And now this Fire Fairy is asking you to have excitement, to have a new spark, a new idea about how you walk through your truth. Because I want to say this, there's a part of Capricorn that is it rules depression. It rules this feeling of drying out, of old age. And I feel like now is a time to really, rather than feel like the road is thinning, the light is dimming, it's the opposite. It's about the truth of owning what you want and giving spark to that idea. It's a new adventure. It's very much what this Sagittarius eclipse offered, going in foreign directions, both in your mind, in your heart, and in your physical body, because you're being protected emotionally as you give life to the alchemy and the justice and the balance of you giving the history of your relationships a do-over, an opportunity to be reinvented from a place of a higher, more fun and more happy vibration. And I want to offer it this way, because it isn't about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Saturn-Uranus squaring this year, and we're coming up on an exact square in the mid of June. There's so much activity going on here in June with the Mercury retrograde, Mercury squaring Neptune, this opposition between the home environment of Cancer and the intuitiveness of Cancer, the Capricorn Pluto, asking me to dig down deep into the deeper truth, because here is Spirit watching over you as you learn to. This letting go card is always about the song from Frozen, Let It Go. It's funny how some distance makes everything look small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. It's time to see what I can do to test the limits, to break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free. This is the truth that Isaiah is asking you to step into. The only prison is the prison of your mind, and the prison of what you feel you're obligated to others. And now is a time to ask yourself, Capricorn, if that prison you've put yourself is really serving the others. Because if you're holding yourself small, if you're diminishing yourself in order to stoically serve another, you may be inadvertently oppressing them from their greatest blossoming. That's the way I want to put it, because this is your opportunity, is to write a new story in all your contracts, in all your partnerships. I don't think it's just in your intimate situation. I think it has a lot to do with how you're viewing the road ahead, the road of permissions that you give yourself to live your best life. All right, let's go on to our Sagittariuses, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Here we go. All right, Sagittarius. Our first angel is Omega, the white unicorn. Then we have Shanti, the angel of peace, Daniel, the angel of partnerships and marriage, and Rosetta, the angel of parenting, children, teaching. All righty. Joining Omega is the Trust card. Joining Shanti, the angel of peace, is the forgiveness card. Joining Daniel is the communications card. And joining Rosetta is the burden card. Okay, so this last eclipse that we had focused in on Sagittarius, and it was a full moon blood, super moon, lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. I think this was an illumination of our philosophies, illumination of our beliefs, and illumination of how we have been connecting with spirit and our higher self. And I feel like this is an opportunity for Sagittarius to truly be victorious as you trust a bigger picture and are aware. I see the 47, which reduces down to an 11, an awareness of my thought process. Because the angel of peace is in your opportunity and or your obstacle, and there's the forgiveness card. For me, this is reconciliation. It means I have reconciled a negative experience in order to bring me peace and harmony. I have extracted tools and information that empowers me. It doesn't disempower me. And if indeed that situation is repetitive, so I'm in a dynamic where I'm living the same history over and over again with the same characters or the same human beings, there's an opportunity for me to trust that victory comes as I pay attention to what may feel a little bit disruptive in the moment. Because in order for peace to come in, whatever is disrupting that peace has to be there an awareness of it. And I say an awareness because Daniel is the angel of marriage, of partnerships, of contracts, but also your history in partnerships, your history in contracts. And there's the communications card. And I don't think this is about the communications outside yourself, but rather the communications inside yourself. The I have to's, I shoulds, rather than the I get to's and I want to. Because I think what the burden is when I look at Rosetta is really going down to what you deserve. You know, as adults, we tend to clip off the things we want. We let children color, we let children play, we let children enjoy life. And then they get to a certain age and we start taking all of that away. And we start infusing them with these adult rules and regulations and obligations. And that's what I think is going on right now, is the unwinding of this obligatory dynamic. And as you trust that you let that unwind, and you let it unwind first in your own mind by acknowledging, where have I been perpetrating thoughts that no longer serve me, or not acknowledging my own evolution and my own growth in this lifetime. Something we really don't do. I have to say, sometimes I'm really shocked that, you know, you go to an AA meeting and somebody will be collecting their 50-year chip. And I think to myself, okay, so if you're collecting your, a decades old chip, are you still an alcoholic? No, you're not. And while it may be great to acknowledge the growth, in that moment, it feels like I'm acknowledging the past. So this is where I'm going with this, acknowledging the growth, acknowledging the present moment, acknowledging the deeper truth that you have, in many ways, perpetrated dynamics for your own peace of mind that were important, and other people may not understand them all the time. That's where I'm going with this. That's where the forgiveness card comes in. It's where the communications card comes in. It's how you're communicating with yourself. And as you allow the deeper truth of the inner child, it may be a burden because other people are disagreeing with you. But they can't disagree with your emotional body, because your emotions are your emotions. nobody else's. All right, let's go on to Scorpio, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Every time I go to a new sign, I feel traumatized that there's nobody in the chat and that I did not hit the public button. Mercury retrograde, God bless me. Scorpio, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. And Juan, as I start Scorpio, I would just want to thank you because I've made your job very difficult today, and I apologize for that. And I don't have time to do the timestamps because I literally have appointments from 1 to 5 today. So thank you, everybody who's watching. If you can do timestamps and help Juan out, I'd appreciate it. Scorpio, our first angel is Astera. The second is Francesca. The third is Bridget. And the final is Indriel. So both your ruling planets are coming into huge play this week. Mars is opposing Pluto. And in doing so, it's really asking you to dig to a deeper truth of what makes you feel at home, what makes you feel comfortable, what makes you feel loved, what makes you feel nurtured. Astera is being joined by the Earth Fairy. Francesca's being joined by the Death card. Bridget's being joined by the Hawk. And Indriel's being joined by the Trust card. So as this opposition it's going to be a few days, and again, Mars is debilitated in fall in Cancer. It doesn't like it. It's like fire being put out by water. And I want to offer it this way because as you are kind of stuck in this sitting and really reevaluating what is important to you. Mercury retrograde, Saturn is about to square Mars. Saturn is about to square Uranus, and they're about a degree apart. And Saturn is going retrograde. I can't remember the exact date. I didn't write that one down. It might be like tomorrow. It's coming up soon. Astera is asking you to reach for the dreams, reach for the stars with your dreams and desires, and don't compromise. And this is about setting a new foundation. At this time, during this opposition, I feel like some of you may feel like the world is caving in on you, that you're being pulled under. But at the same time, this transformation is offering you a new platform. And if you're willing to get down to the deeper truth of what Pluto requires, of what the sign Scorpio requires, then you will give yourself an opportunity to transform into the vision of your life that you want to live. And that doesn't have anything to do with anybody else's opinion. And that's what I think is going on here in the angel's advice. Really look deeper into the dynamic of your own viewpoint, because you may inadvertently be putting in other people's expectations or most humans live in a pack of some kind. They're known as families. And I personally don't really have a family, so I make all my decisions on my own. Everything is very personal, but most people don't. So this is about looking at what is authentic to you as you allow for the transformation and believe, Francesca, that what you want can be attained and achieved inside of this earthly experience. Because if indeed you enjoy a more quiet life, maybe you're not one of these people that wants a huge family or needs even any sort of other human interaction, but rather maybe you like to live a little more solitary life, that is okay. And there is love to be found in that experience. There is satisfaction to be found in that experience. And that's why I believe that this week, this opposition that is brewing, that'll be exact at 26 degrees, I think on Friday here in the Pacific. I'm not quite sure when it comes to those world times, but it's this creeping up of this week that's aligning with this square that's forming exact between Saturn and Uranus. It's all about, how do I want to rewrite my world? And I want to really live it authentically. And now my job is to dig deep into my truth and allow for my own personal planets, which represent death. And death is only transformation. And as I'm allowed as a Scorpio to dig deeper, maybe I haven't been living my complete truth. And now I'm willing to fly above all of it and look for the signs and the omens that Spirit is supporting this transformation. Because as I allow for my personal transformation, I help illuminate others. And this is the truth card, or the trust card. All right, let's go on to our Libras, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. We're booking it along today. This is what happens when you don't have anybody in the chat to talk to. I feel like a mommy who's abandoned her children. Didn't do it on purpose. Okay, here we go. Libra, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Seraphina. The second is Archangel Raphael. The third is the Patience. And the final is Archangel Gabriel. Sometimes I laugh being a Libra sun because Libra is a sign of partnership and the sign of harmony and balance, and also very logical, looking at things from both sides. And I think that sometimes that's counterintuitive to partnership. I know it may not seem like it, but if we're overly compromising and we don't have our own viewpoint, it can be a little challenging. So Seraphina is being joined by the Fear card. Archangel Raphael is being joined by the Cow. The Patience card is being joined by the Hawk. And the Serpent is joining Archangel Gabriel. So this is where I'm going. Because Libra is a sign of partnerships, I think sometimes when we consider our own wants and desires, again, like some of the more cooperative signs, we consider everybody else's point of view in addition to our own. And I think it happens so naturally for the human that you don't realize you're doing it. And that's why I feel like for Libra, when I see Seraphina saying a happy change is being offered to my family, and there's the Fear card, I think this is an opportunity to identify where false evidence appears real. False evidence of being obligated to do something, or being obligated to bring balance, or being obligated in some ways to passivity, to, I don't want to confront this. And maybe it isn't even about confronting another human, but looking at yourself and saying, if I own me, if I do what makes me happy, will that really rub up against other people or make them unhappy? Because in the opportunity or the obstacle is Archangel Raphael, and there's this huge illumination that's coming out of the top of his head. And I believe that this is about asking and receiving and the illumination of the true balance. Because I think Libras sometimes are the ones that perpetrate the imbalance because they're giving, compromising, and not wanting to rock the boat, and inadvertently building resentment because they're not being seen and thinking they're giving something that they're not getting. Because in the opportunity in the angel's advice is two cards that are really reflecting a similar energy. Patience is asking you to observe, learn, and study so you can use this information and synthesize it into your daily life. And here's the Hawk, really spreading their wings, rising above a situation to see how important it is to give and receive. And if you don't tell people what it means for you to receive, and you're always giving, it's not going to create happiness for you. It's going to foster the fear that you need to be this energy in order to have a happy family. And so Libra, now is a time to turn over any insecurities you have, any self-talk that doesn't serve you, to Archangel Gabriel, because there's a new experience being offered you. But you also have to be willing to shed a skin and to think that your needs are as important as others. And if indeed you are hypothesizing, projecting a conversation, a situation where the other person seems unwilling to be compromising, that's a piece of information for you to pay attention to. And then to decide if you give yourself permission to be individual within that dynamic. So let me make that more clear. You feel repressed by somebody. If you try to express yourself, they're going to argue with you, defend their position, and make you wrong. So do you want to look at yourself as diminished in that, or to say that I'm not going to bang my head against a wall? I'm not going to, continue to try to have a conversation with someone who isn't compromising. So the best compromise is for me no longer to engage in the lack of compromise. And then to individualize and that way you can start to bring in people who are of your own vibration. I think this is a very pivotal week for self-talk. I think that Pluto and Mars and the opposition that's coming up, that's going to be exact at the end of the week, is really asking us all to kind of, be responsible for where we're tying our own hands, where we're feeling like if we don't do this, we won't be loved. We deserve love regardless. All right, let's go on to our Virgos, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. I'm going to book through this thing in an hour, I think. All right, here we go. Virgo, our first angel is Patience. The second is Astera. The third is Archangel Raphael. And the final is Rochelle. Ooh. All right, joining the Patience card is the Grail Knight. Joining Astera is the Spider. Joining Archangel Raphael is the Fire Fairy. And joining Rochelle is the Movement card. The Grail Knight is like Lancelot, and he represents romance, illusion, and seeking the sacred. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is making a square to Neptune this week. It's going to be kind of a theme for a little while, because as Mercury goes retrograde, then it goes forward again. It's going to be like this three squares. And so there's going to be what I believe a certain amount of illusion being brought to light. And this can be a combination of Virgos looking at something through, if I'm perfect enough, if I do this right enough, if I cross enough T's and dot enough I's, I will get the recognition that I deserve, or I will get the validation. And I think that maybe this is a time for self-validation. I think that the idea that Mercury is making this square to Neptune, and then Mars and Pluto are asking us what is really truth to our home versus how we're viewed outside the public world. So as you, Virgo, are willing to look at illusion in not a way that pulls you under or that criticizes you or that makes you wrong, but rather you study from it and you learn from it. And this in many ways helps you to trust an inner knowing that your mind, being ruled by Mercury, might have been eclipsing. And so now I feel like Astera is saying, reach for the stars with your dreams and desires. And now is a time to start to create a network that supports this deeper knowing. And the illusion may be that you've been putting yourself in a situation where you've been hoping to be seen by a company or by an entity or by other people and acknowledged in that way. And now it's time to play to your heart. Maybe that acknowledgement won't come from other people because you inadvertently have done such a good job at wherever you're employed or whatever other people expect of you, that now your growth isn't really an investment they have in you. They want you to do what they need you to do to make their growth happen. And that's what employers and employees do. You know, employees support the employer's vision. And it may not be employment. There may be another genre, but I'm going to stick to the employment dynamic. So Virgo, as the illusions come up, as imbalance comes up, this is a time to seek the sacred within yourself and allow this murky energy of Neptune to float by rather than trying to make a decision right now, understanding that you're unraveling what's expected of you. Versus what you want for yourself. The sixth house rules slavery. It rules, where we are of service to others. And oftentimes we don't think that we should put ourselves in a place where we enjoy being of service to others. And I think that's what might be coming up, because it's really about putting yourself in networks, in situations, in groups of people that really resonate with you at a higher level. Because in the angel's advice is Archangel Raphael and the Fire Fairy. And this speaks to me of really a new beginning and feeling, Archangel Raphael in some ways would be the angel that rules the 6th house, rules Virgo, because it rules health. And your mental health is where I'm going. This doesn't necessarily feel like your physical health, but your mental health, and this liberation from feeling enslaved to a dynamic to being empowered by it. Because now Rochelle says, as you honor and follow the guidance of your heart, movement is happening. And that's what bringing up all this illusion and observing the illusion, not from judgment, not from criticism, not from shoulda, coulda, woulda, but rather like, okay, I've done the best I can do in this dynamic and with the information I had. And now as I've evolved, I am better prepared to step into a new vibration of what's more authentic to me. And that's what eclipse season is all about. All right, let's go on to our Leos, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. All this energy that we have going on this week with this square between Mercury and Neptune. We have the Mars opposition to Pluto, and then Uranus squaring Saturn. All of this plays to the opposite of the eclipse season, with the lunar eclipse in Sagittarius, the solar eclipse in Gemini. It's really stretching for some higher ideals versus living in the monkey mind. The lower vibrations of Gemini being on the hamster wheel of everyday life, running around, having to get this done and that done. And I think that this is all really good, but sometimes it feels a little challenging when we're walking through it. All right, Leo. Our first angel is the angel Daniel. The second is Astera. The third is Ray. And the final is Archangel Raphael. Daniel is being joined by the disruption card. Astera is being joined by the owl. Ray is being joined by the frog, and Archangel Raphael is being joined by the butterfly. Okay, so Leo, Daniel represents marriage, represents our history in marriage, represents what we bring into the situation. We get a history in our love life very quickly. In fact, sometimes we get our history in love life before we've even had a love life. We get it from our parents. We observe how they show up for each other, and then we start to inadvertently duplicate that situation. So here's Daniel, the angel of marriage, talking about my history and relationships, and now is a time to disrupt that history. And sometimes love is disruptive because it does not align to a lower vibration. It does not align to fear. It does not align to lack. And I feel like that's what's coming up, because Astera is saying to reach for the stars with your dreams and desires, and there's the owl. And the owl right now is very much representing the opposition between Pluto and Mars that's coming up this week, a deeper truth, digging into the plumbing of our emotional body and putting some Drano in there and cleaning out the sludge, whatever has been blocking our love body, because now is a time to truly start to dust off our dreams and desires and what we really want, and give life to the idea that it's attainable. Because the angels are asking you to really, Ray is an interesting angel for me because she represents yoga and exercise in the words, the verbiage, and yet she's sitting in a meditative position. And she's got her third eye with her power chakra headed towards spirit, along with her heart, and then the throat represented by the green and blue stripes. So to me, this is very interesting because it's actually counterintuitive. The words Gemini, Mercury, everyday life say one thing, and then the picture says something else. This is the deeper heart. Trust your heart, Leo. Connect with spirit and your deepest desires. The yellow represents the color of Leo, the gold. And the gold comes from you jumping from one lily pad to another. This deciphering what works for you and what hasn't worked for you is where the true healing takes place and where the butterfly starts to take flight. And I want to offer it this way because that willingness to disrupt the old story, to realize that disruption is actually a loving act, is the epiphany that brings on the reconciliation, also known as a healing, that allows for that transformation to become beauty and complete. So this may be a little bit of a challenge. Well, forget about it. It's a hugely challenging week, okay? And a lot of it is a coming clean with our own deeper truth. And what I discovered for myself personally, and I alluded to it earlier or said it in this video, is that there was love coming at me and I could not receive it because I was so busy trying to recapture love from the past that was very thin. And so now my job, the deeper truth is, am I going to go chase the thin, elusive love, or am I going to accept the solid, savory that's coming forward? Okay, let's go on to our Cancers, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Give it a good shuffle. Whoop. Our first angel for Cancer is Xana, the angel of protection. The second is Francesca. The third is Indriel. And the final is Isabella. Xana is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. Francesca is being joined by the Spider. Indriel is being joined by the Movement card. And Isabella is being joined by the Grail Knight. Okay, so Cancer, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. The first thing I want to say is you're all about home and hearth and family. You also rule property. You rule like ranches and farms and the ocean in some ways, you know. I mean, no one can really live on the ocean, but islands and things like that. Because I want to put it this way. For Cancer, you may be going through a bit of an emotional storm right now because the crab tends to want to crawl to the side, right? And I feel like emotionally you want things and you're like putting in your rockets of desire to the universe, and maybe things are not manifesting as quickly as you want because there's a bit of an emotional storm coming, and you're going to have to hold the line and know that you're being protected as you sit in the unknown and you have courage to sit in your own self-respect and responsibility of knowing that you want something. And this is directly related to your love life, directly related to how you want to interact with the people that you love, family. You know, I mean, I can go anywhere within the intimate body, from your DNA to your partners to your most intimate friends that you call sisters or brothers, because in the opportunity of the obstacle is Francesca saying, what do you visualize right now? And now I have the Spider, which for me, 99% of the time is a relationship card. And if you are a Cancer who is wanting a deeper relationship, now is a time to really allow yourself to give life to the idea that this is a deeper truth and you have evolved into a place to now accept and receive this relationship. Francesca is saying, what are you going to visualize right now? Because that's coming about. That's kicking in the laws of attraction. And in many ways, the Spider is asking me to allow the relationship to come in by being aware of what I'm focusing in on. Because as you sit in Indriel's energy and you allow for this feeling that Spirit is bringing you not just any partner, but the right partner. Because when we pick a partner, we pick a life path. And there's movement towards what you really want, not what you've been thinking you want. Because Isabella is saying, yes, the timing is right for this new venture. A happy outcome follows your positive expectation. And here is Sir Lancelot. And this is about bowing down to a deeper truth, the sacredness of what you want to experience within romance and love. And it's also this willingness to understand that if indeed the journey has felt long and arduous to find your person, it could be because it's taken time for you to actually sit in an energy that supports supports you so you don't drown in a relationship, so that you're feeling heard and not overly compromising in a relationship and being absorbed. All right, let's go on to Gemini, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Do a quick sip of my tea. I like to start with the angels. All right, Gemini, here we go. Our first angel is Xana. I'm sorry. Our first angel is Indriel. The second is Merlina. The third is Daniel. And the final is Akasha. Trying to get a good shuffle in here. Indriel is being joined by Merlin. Merlina's being joined by the Fire Fairy. Daniel's being joined by the Eagle. And Akasha's being joined by the High Priestess. Mercury rules Gemini, and Gemini rules everyday activities, siblings, workmates, teammates, neighborhoods, communications, our everyday roads, short-term travel, all the little details of everyday life. And when I looked at this spread, the first thing I thought of is that Merlin and Merlina are bringing to light and balance anything that's involving unconscious everyday activities that are running you versus you running them. Because Indriel is the light worker and Merlina is about alchemy, justice, and balance. And I almost felt like this was a bit of a slowdown. When I first looked at it, I saw the glow above her head. I saw the glow of the light here. And I felt like slowing things down during this Mercury retrograde. Even the square to Neptune is somehow going to serve you if you slow down a little bit and allow dream time to take over, to almost try to stop thinking your way through it and start to almost try to go into neutral, because then that's where inspired action will come. Merlina talks about being confused and indecisive, but I go right back to Merlin. And I think there's something magical about to happen. There's an inspiration about to happen, but I can't push it. I can't force it. I can't think my way to it. I have to allow it to come through divine inspiration. And it's going to somehow validate my future partnerships. It's going to bring to light something about my history, about how I have viewed things and how I have participated in my own imbalance in some way. I spoke earlier to one of the signs that I have really been realizing as Pluto has been squaring my Mars, squaring my ascendant. My moon is being triggered by Uranus, which is creating a square to Saturn right now. So much of this activity is literally sitting on top of me, begging me to transform. And that transformation is how I'm viewing things. How often am I looking to where there was imbalance in the past, and I want that imbalance balanced before I will accept the balance that sits in front of me. And that's what I think is going on for Gemini, because I think that Akasha is the spiritual teacher telling you that there's something about your deeper intuitions that will bring the balance in. That if you look into your everyday life and you start going into the hamster wheel of looking for evidence here in that, you're going to miss the forest through the trees. And so this idea that a solar eclipse is coming to illuminate in Gemini the way that you think and how much you're allowing yourself to expand. The zodiac axis of Sagittarius and Gemini is I hate to use the word lower, but it's lower learning. It's school age learning, children learning versus the philosophical dynamic of Sagittarius. So I think that rather than criticizing the everyday activities of being a human, the everyday thinking, teaching, speaking. It's more about assessing and looking at if that thought process has run amok or gone too far, and how do I pull back into an inner knowing and then start to allow myself to think about the inner knowing, which then kicks in the laws of attraction and starts to bring in the balance and the alchemy that cannot come from the outside. It must come from within. And this is something that you will learn and take with you moving forward. Okay, let's go on to Taurus, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Okay. All right, Taurus, our first angel is Azure. The second is Archangel Gabriel. The third is Maya. And the final is Serena. You know, with Uranus transiting through Taurus, and, you know, we can get very specific with, you know, early Taurians and later Taurians and where does the effect come in the strongest. But once the planets entered the house, the conversation has begun. The electricity has entered the room. So wherever you are in Taurus, you're feeling this unsettledness, the winds of change. But I do believe that they're coming to support your greatest happiness. So Azure is being joined by the Risk card. Archangel Gabriel is being joined by the Death card. Maya is being joined by the Frog. And Serena is being joined by the Butterfly. Being a Taurus moon, I have asked myself, am I going to have a heart attack? Am I going to die of some shocking emotional thing that happens? No. What I've come to understand is Uranus is here to liberate me from where I have been. And so what does Azure say? Your desired outcome will happen in the near future. Have patience and faith and don't try to force it. Force is fear. Force is insecurity. Force is micromanaging spirit. My job now as a Taurus who wants to know where I'm going, who is willing to plod along through the fields so I'm feeling secure, is now having to risk something by flying off the edge of my own desires. And the risk is to transform my thought process, my self-talk. Archangel Gabriel is going to ask me to turn over my insecurities, to transform them. And that's exactly what Taurus does. Taurus wants to feel secure in its material possessions, wants to be able to touch and taste and see and feel all the things that make it feel secure. And Maya is saying this is a time of education, and it's about cleaning your emotional house. And a lot of what you want to experience isn't going to come because you can see it. It's going to come because you start to talk about it in a different way. You start to feel things in a different way. You start to be receptive in the way that Venus wants to receive things, because the money, the security, the material things that you want to experience will come to you, but through serenity. And that's where the true blossoming and the beauty comes from. And the serenity is the risking that I will receive, that as I stand in the vibration of what is truth, okay? I believe that the law of attraction is the truth of the universe. And the human has inadvertently thought, I need to work hard to make things happen. But if we really look at the underbelly of the vibration of working hard, if that is coming from a place of deserving, I'm not deserving unless I work hard like a bull, then I'm actually cutting off my ability to manifest. So it's sort of this concert. I work with spirit. I stand in the belief and the knowing, and then I take inspired action. And when the inspired action comes, I'm willing to work hard at that. Right now, Taurus, the hard work is not to force something, to risk a bigger picture. That if you relax and allow your emotional body and your thoughts and your self-talk to go into the transformational dynamic, that you win instead of lose. That whatever Uranus is blown up in your life is really to be a disruptive nature of oppression, disrupting the Saturnian everything that's been going on this last 2 years has to do with control and Saturn and rules and regulations and authority and rewriting that. So this is what we're doing. You're rewriting how you create your material security, and that comes through ease and a give and take with spirit. And in doing so, you're blossoming. And it's not been easy. The butterfly didn't become the butterfly just, willy-nilly. It had to go through a tremendous and horrific transformation in order for that to happen. So this week, when you are walking through this Mercury retrograde squaring Neptune, and you're finding that things may happen that have come to light that have been behind closed doors, or you're finding that, there's been some sort of, I want to say the word betrayal, but it may be not a betrayal like somebody has cheated on you. It may be just a betrayal of your own character, like somebody makes you sound like you're one way when you're not. Maybe they're accusing you of being stubborn. Rewrite the story from the inside out, Taurus. Don't try to fight with the other person. Don't try to overmanage the situation, but rather go inside. What's my self-talk? What do I feel about me? And then risking the bigger picture of saying that to spirit and then starting to operate from that. I recently have had a very disruptive third house crap going on around me. And normally my Mars ruled Aries rising would want to take action and go to war. And what I ended up doing was kicking in the Venusian side of me and creating peace in my environment, putting up more candles, putting things around me that made me feel peaceful and harmonious. And that took everything down. And it was actually the most powerful thing I could have done to neutralize the energy. All right, let's go on to our final sign, Aries, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. And if you have an Aries stellium, you have been feeling really challenged by this Mars being in Cancer, because somehow, Aries and Cancer are in a natural square. So there could be a trigger going on there. Just relax. All right, here we go. Aries, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. It's me, Pluto, sitting on my rising sign for months at a time, telling me to transform. I shouldn't say telling me, I should say offering me transformation. I don't believe anybody's dictating anything. They're just offering the fertile landscape of transformation. And sometimes fertilizer smells really bad. All right. Our first angel is Archangel Uriel. The second is Archangel Michael. The third is Athena. And the final is Desiree. Your ruling planet is in Cancer. It is debilitated. It's like trying to swim, in upstream waters. Fire and water makes steam. It could be a very challenging time. And sometimes, Aries, while you want to move forward, it might just be better to just relax. Archangel Uriel is being joined by the Love card. Archangel Michael is being joined by the Movement card. Athena is being joined by the Bee card. And Desiree is being joined by the Fear card. This feels very powerful to me because love is the water that can extinguish the fire, but we need fire to live. So this is what I want to offer. As an Aries rising myself, what I found was self-love was helping to calm frustration, anger, and unforgiveness within me. My ability and willingness to review where the love was coming in my life. And I said earlier in this broadcast, which is turned into a video, but anyway, I had to look for the love and not assign the love to places where it doesn't show up. And my fourth house is a very dry house when it comes to love. So now I could sit there and look at my family over and over again and say, why didn't they love me? Why didn't they act like they love me? Why didn't they support me? Or I can start to feel love where it's coming from now. And that's what Archangel Michael is asking, for me to have the courage, Aries rising, to move towards where I want to be, to lovingly assert myself into my own vibration. Where is my focus? Where is my being energy? And as I'm willing to stand in the truth of that, to take judgment off the table, to take self-loathing off the table, to take whatever I feel I lack, and that is the reason I'm not being loved, because Desiree is saying conditions are not favorable because you've been acting on the dynamic of false evidence appearing real. If anybody has been telling you you are too difficult, you are too fiery, you're too forceful, it is to me that shows up when Aries is not standing in the authentic truth of what they want for themselves. So they're trying to get other people to jump on board with them. So I don't want to make it difficult. I just want to say this is about self-love for Aries. And this self-love will help extinguish the frustrations that you're feeling as you're swimming out of Cancer, and Pluto will be opposing your ruling planet. So rather than getting mad and fiery, or because if Mercury Neptune square brings up some nasty for you, that piece of information is a truth that will help liberate you. And before you take action on it, go deeper and ask yourself if that action is going to be reflective of the love you have for yourself, Aries. Because Aries is a beautiful, beautiful sign of courage, of pioneering spirit. You know, if you go into battle, you want an Aries standing beside you because they will be loyal to you and they will make sure that they cover your ass the way they cover their own. So that's what I'm saying for this week. Okay, I think that's it. I want to thank everybody for coming today. I don't know what happened with me and my hitting the wrong button. I didn't publicize this, so I'll do it now. But thank you for being patient with me. And if you'd like to book a private reading with me, I am can be found on Lada's website. My name is Teri Hunter, TeriHunter. I'm available, and that's it for me for this week. I got to tell you right now, my brain is like feeling all watery and kooky. So I'm going to surrender to the Mercury retrograde, and thank you all for being patient with me, and then reach out to Juan and let him know what happened. So I'll see you all next week. Peace out.